Top 5 Best Macro Lens for Canon. Number 5. Canon 180mm f3.5L Macro. If the Canon 100mm f2.8L is the perfect Canon macro lens for plants, then the Canon 180mm undoubtedly takes the prize for insects. What makes it so great? First of all, the 180mm focal length is perfect for insect photography. It's not too long to be totally unwieldy, but not too short to be useless. Like the other macro lenses on this list, the 180mm macro is tack sharp across the board. And build quality is high. The Canon 180mm macro is impressively rugged. It's also quite heavy and large, which keeps it squarely in the arena of serious insect photographers. The biggest trade-off is price. For a lens this long and this sharp, you have to pay a lot. But for the most serious insect photographers, it'll be worth it. What I like: L lens build quality, stellar optics, excellent focal length for capturing insects. F3.5 is good focal length for low light. What I don't like: expensive lens, large and heavy. Coming in number 4. Sigma 105mm f2.8 XDG macro. The Sigma 105mm f2.8 is another true macro lens, but one for significantly less money, while still delivering high quality. Where the Sigma 105mm especially shines is its build quality. It's made of metal, and feels like it could take a beating. The manual focus ring turns nicely and easily, which is perfect for focusing during macro shoots. Image quality is good, as well. The Sigma 105mm is quite sharp, even along the sides and corners of the frame. The center is just astonishingly strong. You're not going to want for sharp photos with the Sigma. While the working distance on the Sigma 105mm isn't huge, you can still shoot flowers and plants with it. Just don't try it on insects, or you'll have a bug exodus on your hands. What I like: tack sharp in center and edges of the frame. Bargain price. Rugged build quality. Good focal length for flower and plant macro photography. What I don't like: the Sigma 105mm is heavier than most walk-around lenses. Lens has slow autofocus. Coming in number 3. Canon 100mm f2.8L is macro. The Canon 100mm f2.8L is the pride and joy of most Canon macro photographers. It's sharp as a tack, offers great build quality, and produces amazing bokeh. And did I mention that it's a true macro lens? I use it pretty regularly. You can capture extreme details, even at f2.8. Stop down, sharpness may improve slightly, but it's hard to tell given the high initial performance. The built-in image stabilization is a nice touch, especially for macro purposes. The greater the magnification, the more stable you need your setup to be if you want to prevent blur. With Canon's you can hand-hold down to shutter speeds of 1/80th at high magnifications. Unfortunately, the Canon 100mm macro is also quite pricey. So I only recommend it if you're very serious about your macro photography. If you're still just getting into the genre, then I'd suggest other lenses on this list. What I like: incredibly sharp at all apertures. Creamy bokeh. Excellent build quality. Image stabilization is good for handheld macro photography. What I don't like: price is higher than many are willing to pay. Lens is fairly long and bulky. Coming in number 2. Canon EFS 35mm f2.8 macro. The Canon 35mm f2.8 macro is one of the only wide-angle macro lenses out there. For good reason. Wide-angle lenses have terrible working distances. But while the 35mm f2.8 macro does suffer from a limited working distance, it has other positives. For one, it's quite sharp, both wide open and stop down. It's also small and light, offering some potential as a walk-around lens. It could double as a portrait or street photography lens, while also being used for the occasional macro photo. If you like to handhold, you'll also appreciate the which is a lifesaver at times. While 35mm is small enough to allow for some serious hand holding, the lower you can go, the better. So grab this lens if you want something compact for walk-around macro photography. What I like: small, light lens for walk-around photos. Autofocus is quick and quiet. High-quality optics. Price is reasonable. What I don't like: small working distance. Can only be used on APS-C cameras. Coming in number 1. Canon EFS 60mm f2.8 Macro. The Canon EFS 60mm f2.8 is a high-performing true macro lens for a low price. Hold it in your hand, and you'll immediately notice the build quality. It's surprisingly well put together for a bargain EFS lens, even if it's not ultra-rugged and weather-sealed. Autofocus is speedy, though note that you shouldn't use this function much as macro photography subjects are almost always too close to get in focus quickly and reliably with an autofocus system. And optically, the 60mm macro is excellent. Macro lenses tend to be sharp, and this lens is no exception. It performs well at an f2.8 aperture and only improves when stopped down. The only drawback is the working distance, which is around 3.5 inches. Not only is this too short for insect photography, but it'll be tough to photograph objects without casting a shadow. Due to the low price and the great optics, I recommend this 60mm macro for those looking to get started in macro photography. Just don't expect everything to go smoothly all the time. What I like: amazing image quality, low chromatic aberration, fast autofocus, bargain price. What I don't like: cannot use this lens on full-frame cameras. Small working distance may be an obstruction.